Welcome to Yes Also. I'm Suzi Barrett, and my guest today is one of the funniest people I know, Colton Dunn. You already know Colton as one of the stars of Superstore, and he's written a lot of your favorite sketches on Key and Peele. And if you haven't already, check him out in The Recruit on Netflix. It is not a comedy, and it is super cool to see Colton in a CIA action drama. In the improv world, Colton got his start at Comedy Sports. He was a cast member at Boom Chicago. He's been a star of the UCB scene in LA and New York for years, and he tours with Ben Schwartz and friends. There's so much in here that I love, including Colton's wild tales from his days in Amsterdam, his favorite sketches that he wrote for Key and Peele, and some cool reveals about his improv process, particularly when it comes to straight manning. This is just the first half of our conversation. For part 2, you'll head over to yesalso.supercast.com, become a subscriber, and immediately get all the bonus content that lives there, including our monthly Q&A episodes. Thank you to those of you who have subscribed so far. We couldn't keep this show going without you. And now, let's go to Colton Dunn. Colton Dunn, welcome to Yes Also.
All right.
This has been a long time coming. I think you were one of the very first people I asked to do this, and you're just so busy.
I'm very busy.
You're very
I'm a
busy.
very busy person.
Yeah.
I'm not very busy.
Well, I mean, like,
sometimes.
Yeah, you tour, you've been shooting stuff, which is great. Let's dig in. We're gonna just chat prov for a while. I want to know. So you started in Minnesota, yeah?
Yeah. Yes. I started
Comedy Sports.
I started in I guess it was 10th grade, I think. Yeah, 10th grade in Comedy Sports High School League.
So you guys had one of these, I've heard about this from other guests. Yeah. We did not have this, but it's in your high school, you could audition and you're doing the league against other schools. And
that's right. You go, so like Comedy Sports, it's like two teams of athletes who compete against each other doing these improv games. And we would go to the theater and play other schools.
Incredible.
So just like, you'd play basketball or any other sport, you'd go and play all these other cool schools. But it was, because it was so small, I was in St. Paul. It wasn't like citywide. It was like the whole, greater metropolitan Twin Cities area. And I was on a team with Nick Swartzen was the other person on the team. So it was me, him, and then
very successful stand-up now. Yes, very funny.
Very funny.
Did you guys have jackets, like varsity jackets?
No, we what we did. They did not let us letter in Comedy Sports. And our uniforms, the main Comedy Sports uniforms in St. Paul, they're different in every state, in every city. But in St. Paul, they were bowling shirts.
Okay.
But in the high school league, you just had T-shirts with the logo and maybe your high school name.
Yeah, gotcha. When you started that, did that feel like something clicked for you? Or did you already know that you were a comedian before that entered your life?
No. I mean, I knew I was goofy. Mm-hmm. And I was definitely silly. And I had I believe in junior high, I had... My mom clearly she made me go audition for this play. I didn't really want to do it, but she made me do it because I think she could tell. I wasn't taking sports very seriously, and so I went and auditioned for this play, and I got it. And I was just a kid, but I just remember being on the city bus, going to do the shows during the weekdays when I got to miss school to go do these shows. Mm-hmm. And driving through downtown St. Paul, which is not a huge city, but for a little kid at the time, I was like, whoa, I'm going into the city and I'm doing a show and I don't have to go to school. And that's where I was like, I want to do this, whatever this is.
I want to do the thing that gets me out of school.
It feels like a hack, right? It's like, I'm not doing the normal life. I'm going in the bus. I'm watching other people like walk to their jobs. And I'm like, I'm going to go pretend to be a clown. Yeah. In a kid circus.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I get to miss school to do something fun in a crazy, exciting place. And I'm getting like praised for it.
People are happy that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, I had that, and then...
Can I ask what the play was?
It was called Aesop's Fables, a musical circus.
Uh-huh.
And all the characters were characters from Aesop's Fables, except for me. My character was this character
Star
named
Wars.
Eggy the Clown. Yeah. I had to learn how to juggle. And I put on clown makeup and I juggled. That was my whole thing. I was Eggy the clown.
Impressive. How old were you?
Oh, geez. I mean, it's junior high, so
like 11, 12?
Somewhere between 13 and 16, I think.
Yeah. Juggling takes a lot of dedicated practice.
It did. I never got good at it. I dropped the balls every show.
Eggy.
Yeah, hey, hey, what are you gonna do, Eggy? So then after that, in high school, I was still kind of being a goofball, but I didn't want to do like plays and theaters because that wasn't cool, So I was like, I knew I wanted to do. I was in the acting class, but I didn't want to do the like read monologues and stuff. And then this former student came. And he played in the Comedy Sports Theater in Minneapolis. His name was Jason Wooten, really great dude. And he also the first guy who ever played Adam Sandler's They're All Gonna Laugh at You.
Oh.
It's the first time I heard that was in his car when he was driving us to a game one weekend. He was like, you guys got to hear this.
That tape was on heavy rotation when I was a sophomore in high school.
Oh, man,
my
so
God.
good.
They're all gonna laugh at you.
Oh, my gosh, so good. He showed us what it was. We auditioned, and I thought, oh, this is great. And then I went and watched a show in Minneapolis, and that was it. I was like, oh, I'm doing that.
Why was it because of Jason that you didn't perceive this as being dorky? Like this was fine to do, but theater wasn't. Like, what was the difference?
I mean, I guess it wasn't like he was like, hey, I'm a cool guy or anything like that.
No offense, Jason.
I think it's because there was like, he definitely wasn't like an actor guy. He was just kind of like a funny guy. And this was a funny thing and a fun thing to do. And the whole thing was just about having fun. And, I went to the show and they're just having fun and everybody's laughing at them. And, so I guess that it wasn't cool. I mean, it wasn't like if somebody else was looking at it, it'd be like, that was what you thought was cool.
Yeah.
But for me, it was cool.
Yeah.
And I mean, like right now, if like everything failed and they're like, well, now you just got to do comedy sports, I'd kind of be okay with that. I'd be like, yeah, cool, I'll do it.
Yeah.
How many shows a week?
Yeah, right. I mean, short form is such a blast.
I love it.
Yeah. Do you ever do short form now?
No, I don't. I've done a few here and there. But there's just not a lot of short form live shows.
Yeah.
There's like a couple online shows, hopefully I'll get to do some of those sometime. And then there's a few more coming up here and there, know, but it's also kind of tough because, like when you're like doing it, it's fun to do it like with a group of people and you kind of get your vibe together and you kind of get in the mix. That's a little harder for me to do because I've got kids and work and stuff like that. So,
yeah.
No, I would totally do it. If you have a short form theater, let me know. I'll come.
Yeah,
I'll do
you got
word at a time story. I don't fucking care. I'll do it all.
I'll do word at a time. I'll do 6 words at a time.
I'll do 6 word at a time story. I don't care.
I'll do all the heavy lifting. So now let's go through your timeline. You went from Minnesota to New York. Is that right?
That's correct. I went from Minnesota and I moved out to New York. I went to New York, saw the Upright Citizens Brigade show.
How old were you?
That's when I was probably 17 or 18. And I saw that show. And I was already taking a year off before I was going to start college. And I saw that show and I went back to start college. And I was in college for 2 weeks.
Where?
At the University of Minnesota.
Okay.
And I was sitting in, I had to take this makeup math class because my math was so shit when I was in school. And so it was like this some algebra, college algebra class or whatever. And like I walked in and I remember the guy like set the paper down in front of me and with all these problems. And he was like, all right, so you guys just do this. And like, he just wanted, and then that was what he wanted us to do for an hour. And I was like looking at it and in my head, I'm like, there's New York City. There's people right now. There's a guy getting a bagel and going to talk to his friend. They're going to do an improv show. And I just fucking stood up and left the class.
Amazing.
And that was it. And
that was it.
I think I worked a couple more weeks at the movie theater, saved up money for a bus ticket, and I took a bus out there and crashed on a friend's dorm room.
Amazing, like the ability for you as a young person to know yourself that well, and for that knowing of yourself to override any sense of like the paradigm that you're supposed to go on, or like any fear about making a big move like that. It's just like, no, you were pulled by this tractor beam that's like, I can sit here and stare at these hieroglyphs.
For sure.
Or
I was also repulsed, like,
yeah.
I don't, if anyone's listening, like, man, this guy knew what he wanted to do. I also just really didn't want to do what I was doing.
You more knew what you didn't want to do.
I was like, I do not want to do this, and I'm out.
Yeah. And so the knowledge of New York City and UCB and all that had come slightly before this.
Well, but that not as a theater. It was just them as a group. Like they were just a sketch group when I saw them. They didn't have like a theater. They weren't teaching classes. So to me, it was just like they're doing cool shit out there.
This was like the original UCB4. Yeah, you saw their show.
I saw their sketch show, yeah.
How did you find out about that?
My buddy who was out there at the NYU Film did like a summer program, and a buddy of mine went out there to do that, and that's when I went out to visit. And he was the one who was like, "Oh, I heard this show's really cool. We should go check it out." And we went and watched it. They were at the KGB room, I believe, or the Red Room at the KGB bar. I don't know, something to do with KGB. Please don't come after me.
You're on a no-fly list.
Yeah, please stop. I'm pro Ukraine, but
case in point.
No. But they, saw that show, thought it was great, and then there was also a comedy sports theater out there, and they weren't like a big theater at all. They like performed in the back of a restaurant, on a Tuesday night.
Clinking silverware and stuff.
Yeah, they have to set up this little stage, and there was probably only like 12 seats in the room.
How amazing to have the memory of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like so many of us know them as already huge.
Oh yeah.
And you're watching them set up this like basically corporate show.
Oh yeah, well these guys, the UCB, they just did their show. It was I guess the show they were doing in Chicago, and so it was like they just came out and just did it.
Yeah. Was it a standout show in any way, or just cool because you had not seen anything like that before?
Wow. I mean, well, I don't know how I could answer that. It's very possible that it was just cool because I hadn't seen anything else.
Sure.
But I got to say, from the trajectory, there must have been something there, right? I mean, I don't think I called it wrong. I'm thinking that they were great.
I don't think I called it wrong.
I was like, these guys are good, I think. I don't know. I feel like I got a little validation on that Tastemaker playlist. But, I knew that it was good. But there also was an element where I couldn't differentiate it from my New York experience, Yeah. So it was just like, this is where you go to do good shit, you know?
And where this echoes your experience, your formative experience in junior high. This is the place where you sit on a bus and ride among buildings, and all these people are on their way to do something.
Yep.
People aren't sitting at home in New York.
No.
Everyone's on a sidewalk.
Everybody's busting it. You know? I loved it.
Yeah. Okay. So you get off a bus. You literally take a bus.
I took a bus. Yeah.
It's so romantic. Yeah. It's so midnight cowboy.
I have two very like romantic, moving to a new city.
Give them to me.
Well, there's that one.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I came to LA, so this will jump ahead in the timeline a little bit.
We'll circle back.
We'll circle back. Okay. I had gotten I had to come to Minnesota to get my driver's license again because I had lost it. You'll find out in the rest of my timeline why I don't have my driver's license anymore. But so it took me a little while. I had a little stopover from New York to LA where I stopped in Minnesota. I'm going to get my driver's license. I'll buy a car with the money that I saved, and then I'm going to LA. And I get there and I buy a car. The car sucks. I have to do some repairs to it. I have a minor fender bender. I got to fix that. And then before you know it, it's like been 2 months, and I'm like, I got my driver's license, I got the car, but I don't have any money. I'm like, I guess I'll go back to work at this movie theater. I'll manage this movie theater and start doing comedy sports again. And so I kind of make moves to do that. And I have I'm scheduled to start the next day at the movie theater. And I can't go to sleep that night. And I'm like, oh man. And I'm just going. And I just fucking threw all the shit in my car and fucking left.
Amazing. Just at night drove
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty early in the morning. Started driving, texted my mom about an hour later and was like, hey,
I texted your mom, dear mom, fuck driver's licenses.
Fuck driver's license. I'm going. And I was just like, I left, you know. She sent me $200. She was like, all right, well, here's $200. I can't really help you out. But
yeah. That's so nice though. Yeah. Okay. Circling back. You get off the bus in New York.
Get off the bus.
Are you immediately I'm going to start? Did they have improv classes at UCB then?
No. There's no improv classes. My buddy had started performing every once in a while with the comedy sports guys, so I was going to try to get into doing that. But other than that, I had no idea what I was doing. I literally had no fucking clue what I was doing. And not only that, I didn't really understand the scope of how big the city was because I had only been there when I went on my trip. I was only there for it was a long weekend, maybe 4 days. And I was young and we were super high the whole time. And then, so when I got out there, I didn't really scope how big Manhattan is.
It's impossible to integrate.
Yeah. And so I got off with all of my stuff, 2 giant duffel bags, a duffel bag as tall as I am, and then another giant bag. And I get off at Grand Central Station and I'm trying to figure out the signs and I'm like, I'll just walk it. I've been on this bus this whole time. And I'm walking to NYU.
Oh my God. Down at 3rd and 11th or even further.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm walking down, trying to go down and forget where I was. There's a movie theater. It was a Lowe's movie theater. It might have been on 2nd Avenue or something.
Oh
it's
God.
A number of stories, glass on the outside. And I just remember that's where my friend came to meet me at. And just walking up with all of my stuff, oh.
Just 18 pounds lighter because you've sweat out all your organs.
Exactly.
Oh my God. And the plan was what? To stay with your friend and figure stuff out?
Stay with my friend and figure out what I'm going to do. And so then I did. I got a job at a video store, okay, because I could do that. Video stores are places where people would walk into the store and rent a video with a movie on it, and they'd bring it home and watch it, and then they'd bring it back.
For those listeners now 25 and under.
Exactly. So I worked at a video store, and I started doing comedy sports, and then just trying to figure out how to do it, ended up getting an apartment with a buddy of mine, and we did sort of a 2-man thing for a little bit where we just go to open mics and do stuff. At this point, UCB, I don't think they had even started necessarily doing, they might have started doing some workshops at that point in time, but I didn't have any money to do a workshop. At
this point, did you have sort of a a dot on the map that you were headed towards that was on your life map that was I love performing, I love comedy, I want to do something with that? Or was it just, here is organically something that I like doing and I'll do this while I figure out where I'm headed and what I'm doing?
I think that's more that. I was just kind of doing it. I would pick little goals. There's this place called Chicago City Limits.
Yes.
And that place you could get paid to do improv. They did a show there regularly. They did tour co-shows. They had a whole tour company, and it was short form improv comedy. So I really wanted to get into that. So that was a goal, and I didn't get in it.
Oh, wild!
It's the only time I did not book an improv theater audition.
Wow!
For an improv thing. Only time. So now what's up?
Now what's up? Look at him.
It was when Michael Jordan got cut from his basketball team. It's like that. It's driven me. No, but then the second time I auditioned for it, I did get it. So that was a goal, and I think that's around that time is when UCB started teaching classes, but again, I could and opened up a theater, but I couldn't afford it, so I interned there. And so I worked at the video store, I interned at UCB, and I did Chicago City Limits.
I love that it's like, yeah, well, they passed on Michael Jordan, and now how do they feel? And then I got in. My second audition, I got in right away. They loved me.
Second audition, then they loved me.
They paid me a bunch of money. I toured with.
I definitely didn't pay me a bunch.
No. Who was in your generation? Was that the Eugene and Paul Scheer and Conroy days?
Eugene, Paul Scheer, Sean Conroy. Are you talking about at Chicago City Limits? Yeah, Charlie. I think he may have had the same experience as me too there, maybe where he didn't get in at first and then he got in. I'm not quite sure, but definitely Eugene, Michael Leffingwell, Jamie Dembo.
What a crew! What a cohort!
Yeah, Victor Varnado. Yeah, it was a cool crew, and fun. And then UCB started up, and it was like that theater just kind of just had this weird slow death. That was kind of weird to be a part of.
Chicago City Limits did. Is it not? It's.
I mean, maybe they're still doing stuff. I don't know. I hope so. I mean, you know, the owners were nice people and stuff.
Slow death as everyone got eclipsed by UCB.
Yeah, I think it just that kind of sucked up all the air as far as improv goes, and because then that became cool. It's almost like short form for a long time. It was just kind of like that's not cool. And you know, in a lot of ways, I get it. You know, there's stuff that's kind of corny about, especially the way it's performed sometimes, you know, and then you'd go to a UCB show and everyone would just walk out and be like, man, just say a word. And then they just go and you're like, whoa, man, they're fucking insane. You know, they only got one word. They're so cool.
The theater reeks of weed and it's midnight and someone's like
nobody's
barfing
got
in
their
the alley.
shirt tucked in up there.
No. Fuck shirts. I'm going to disrespect the hell out of this shirt.
Is that guy wearing a hat?
When you first saw long form, like, what did you think when you saw it? Or do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. I saw it back in... I hated it when I first saw it. I saw it back in high school. A group came up from Chicago, and it was it was kind of billed. And now that I'm older and I kind of know this stuff, like I know a little bit more. Like I'm like, maybe they weren't, but they were like supposed to be like from Del. Like Del Close taught them, and then he comes to teach other people. This was the idea that they were presenting. And then they did long form, and I just hated it. I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever watched. Like it's way too slow. They're like, what are they trying to figure out? Like, like get to it. Like if you're just gonna, and so I just didn't get it. And it was not. No, that's my own personal opinion of that show. And maybe they did a great job.
But if it didn't make you laugh, that's...
It didn't make me laugh, but I was also in high school and, I was just, and I'd been doing comedy sports and been getting laughs.
Right.
Doing all the
6
stuff that they're like,
minute.
Like, don't come out and try to say something funny. And I'm like, what? That's all I do.
Right. Untuck your shirt, pal, then we'll talk.
And so then I didn't... And so I took a little bit of that, and I was in this other group called the Bad Mama Jammas. Shout out. And we didn't necessarily do long form, but we did longer pieces. We did like a rock opera musical and, longer things like that. But the idea when we did it, and I remember even after all of us, kind of knew about long form, was the idea of like kind of approaching the long form, but with the energy of short form, and you're not like focused on trying to be funny, but this show is here to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Like, and so, kind of attacking it in that way. And so then when I saw UCB and, for them, it's sort of still can go slow, but this idea of the game and that once you know the game, you attack it, like that fit very well into what it was that I approached. So it was more about finding a style of long form that I could connect to and could apply what I felt like I could do well to the form.
UCB's style is a great bridge between the two art forms because it's like, we're not going to just like indulgently meander forever because we're having a good time. We're still going to make this focused for the audience and palatable. And the goal is comedy and we're going to get to it. And so does this implies then that you had like great success? You hit the ground running at UCB. Is that fair to say?
I would say. I mean, it was so small. Everybody hit the ground running.
Of the four people,
But it went great. I interned, and back then I was able to intern through all the classes, and it was like 3 classes before you could audition for a Herald team. That's all I wanted to do, and so I interned through there. John Bowie was the theater manager when I was interning. And auditioned for a Herald team. I put on a Herald team. But then, I think it was maybe less than a year after that, I auditioned for Boom Chicago and ended up going there.
What was the impetus for auditioning? Just like, this sounds cool and I'd love to live in Amsterdam, love to get paid. What?
Boom Chicago?
Yeah.
I knew somebody was like, I don't even remember who the person was. I had no idea the audition was happening. Did not even know. I think I may have been at like McManus or something. And somebody was like, hey, are you auditioning for this short form show and I thought they said in Sweden. And I was like, what? No, I don't know. What are you talking about? And then a little later, somebody's like, it's not Sweden, it's Amsterdam. And I knew that weed was legal in Amsterdam. And I was like got up and I was like, where's the audition?
Brushed the peanut shells off your lap.
Oh God, I had not looked at their website. I knew nothing about them. All I knew was in Amsterdam and that you could smoke weed in Amsterdam. And if they have an improv theater there, I could go to improv there and smoke weed.
So you went right from the bar to the audition?
Something like that. It was either bar or restaurant. It was literally the day of. Whatever it was, I found out the day of that there were auditions. And so I went and auditioned there for that. And then I think they did a callback after that. And so in between that and then the callback, I did have time to like go online, but this
onto their shitty website.
It's old internet, so it was like I couldn't get much information. I was like, okay, there's a theater. There's, I think it was like probably a picture of Jordan singing something.
This is like 2002, 2001.
This is 2001.
2001.
It's also 1 month after 9/11. And So
R.I.P.
I was itching to get out.
Get me out of this shit. Yeah. Okay. Boom Chicago. On arrival, first impressions, and then let's dig into your journey there.
Okay, another funny arrival. So I was supposed to live with Becky
Drysdale.
Yeah, Becky Drysdale, and I get to the so the plan is I'm going to land at the airport, and Becky will meet me there.
This is already a bad plan.
Take me back to the apartment in Osdorp, and get me set up there, and then I'm going to go into Amsterdam and watch a show that night and have a dinner, and you get free dinner and watch the show. And so I'm so excited, and I fly, and there's like a layover, I think in like Iceland or something, and I get off there, and I'm like, oh man, this is great. And then I get back on and fly into Schiphol Airport, and still plays. Dutch people are laughing their asses off watching this video.
They're losing it. Even people who aren't listening, they're just falling off their bikes.
What? There's something funny in the world.
I can sense it. My spidey sense.
And so I get off the plane, and surprise.
No Drysdale.
There's no Drysdale.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to contact people, and they're like, "Oh, we'll call Becky," and they get back to me, and they're like, "Yeah, no, well, here's where you need to go." And so I get the address of where I need to go, and I take a cab there.
100 or a million guilder cab.
Whatever it is. Yeah, this is guilders. Yeah. So it's like the money looks crazy. And take a cab there, and it's, in Osdorp is not like the Amsterdam that you would see in any picture. It just looks like this weird, like, I don't know, like they're all like those weird large unit apartment buildings.
It almost looks Soviet.
Exactly.
Like it's like weird concrete block apartments.
Yes. Yeah. Stalingrad.
Yeah. Stalingrad, 1971.
What's that town? What's that town that you can't go to anymore because of the
like in Belarus,
or the nuclear reactor.
Yeah, the Chernobyl.
Yeah, it looks like that.
And for context for the listeners, Osdorp is at the very end of the number one of the tram line. So it's like 15 or 16 stops from the middle of Amsterdam. So it's like, it's more like far. A suburb, and you're just kind of out. It takes like 45 minutes to get to Boom from there. It's not close.
Yes. It was not close. And so, all right, so I get there and I get to the apartment, and still there's no, I don't know where I'm going, and I just have the room. So I'm like knocking on a random apartment door and nobody's coming to the door. I knock a couple more times, and then finally the door opens, and there's Becky. And she looked hilarious. And she had overslept,
Sure. Well, it was
4 in the afternoon.
I was going to say it was only 4. Yeah. Some lit cigarette stuck to her cheek.
But I am riding high because I am in Amsterdam,
of course.
And all I want to do right now
is zoom, and a boom,
zoom, and a boom, boom. Chicago is smoke a joint.
Yeah,
I want to smoke weed so bad when I get there, and I'm like, oh man, hey, yeah, it's great. So, where's the weed? Yeah. And she's like, I don't have any weed. I do have some mushrooms. And I'm like, oh, okay. And she's like, these are Hawaiians.
Oh, God. Strongest varietal.
And they're dried out. They're like dried out Hawaiians. And so, and then she's like, and I'm like, oh, okay, but I have to go to the show tonight. How are we doing that? And she's like, well, I just can't do it. Like, the idea was she's supposed to take me there, but she's like, I just can't do it. I'm just, And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's fine. I could just go in on that. I don't care.
Oh my God.
And so I'm like, what do I have to do? And she goes, you just get on the tram down there, like right outside the building. And I was like, oh, cool. And I saw a little tram pull up, and it pulls away. She's like, you just get on there and just take it, and you'll take it to this, the light supply. And here's, the Boom Chicago pamphlet or whatever. But you'll see it. Everybody speaks English.
Yeah, I simply can't take an hour to help you on your first day in a new country.
Hold on, no, she did take me out to go get a phone.
Okay, all right.
Because I had to go get a new phone, and so she did take me out to like a little market to get a phone, and then we came back.
All right, she's redeemed.
Yeah, she wasn't, but she was just like, she had done all the shows that weekend, and it was like a big weekend because a bunch of people were leaving as well. Like right when I got there, I think Ike and Josh were leaving at the same time. So it was a big weekend.
Party weekend. Yeah. Understood.
Much love to Becky Drysdale.
Much love. It's all just.
You expect nothing less.
Also, she was like 21 at the time.
21, and she was balling, y'all. Yeah. So she goes, yeah, you just get on that tram and take you right there. I'm like, okay, cool. So I eat the mushrooms. And I'm like, let's go.
Let's go to my first day of my new job.
Yeah, my new job. So I get on the tram and sit down. And I'm like, do. And like we're cruising on the tram. And then we stop at the World Trade Center, which they have their own World Trade Center there. Mm-hmm. But obviously, a month after 9/11 coming out here, I was like, go. And then, what at the time, at the time what just looked like to me as SWAT team members, but it was just their police. But these two guys in their very dark police outfits get on the tram and start making their way back, asking stuff from people. And they're like looking at it and they give it back and they get to me and I go, here you go. And I hand him my passport and he's like, where's your ticket? And I'm like, I don't have a ticket, man.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have to have a ticket to ride this. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know, how much is it? And he's like, get off the tram.
Oh, no.
They take me off the tram. They sit me down. One of the guys outside of the tram has a dog who's just barking at me.
Oh, no.
This dog, he's just like, "Rrr, rrr, rrr." And the guy's like looking at my passport. He's like, you just got here today? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, and you didn't think you had to pay for the tram? And I was like, I didn't know. My friend told me just to get on the tram and go. I didn't know. And he's like, where'd you come from? I was like, New York. Do you have to pay for the subway in New York? And I was like,
oh boy.
Well, yeah, but I didn't know. I'm really sorry. And he's like, well, here's your ticket. So I got a ticket. It was like 300 guilders or whatever. So probably like $175 or something. And so I got a ticket, got on the next tram, and now I'm full mushroom tripping at this,
What?
And so,
what a nightmare.
And so
I
now
can barely buy an orange juice when I'm tripping. Like you got
imagine
a police
dog
ticket.
barking in your face.
God.
And so then I just get on and I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, I can't believe this. And I finally get to the light supply. And, it looks like a carnival as you like pull in there because the sun is down now. So it's like the lights from like the Bulldog are right there and stuff. It's like bar and, come in McDonald's and I'm like, oh, wow. Fabo. I'm like, oh shit. I little did I know which one of those two I would eat more at by the end. But,
plot twist is not what you think.
And so, I get off the thing. I find the theater. I walk in. And what's his name? Drew Wackerling, the bartender with the ponytail. Yes. And I walk in and Drew's behind the bar and he like looks up at me and he kind of like looks at me. I'm like, hey man, I'm a new performer. And he's like, hey, you're the guy. And I was like, and I'm like, yeah, I got a ticket. I'm on mushrooms. Becky was supposed to pick me up, but she, fell asleep. And I just all I wanted to do is smoke a joint. And he just pours a beer, sets it down. He goes, have that beer, and then he like goes to the back and he gets somebody to come out to watch the bar. And as I'm finishing up the beer, then because it was a little beer, beer chip, and then he's like, come with me, and then he takes me to the Rookies, and walks me in, orders a pre-roll joint.
Rookies is a coffee shop where you can buy weed. Yep.
And we sit down at a table, and I have a pint. And he's like, you want another beer? I'm like, yeah, I'd love a beer, but can I get like a normal beer? And he's like, oh yeah. And then he tells me all about beers and stuff. And I order wrote the beer, and is that what they call it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm sitting there with a beer, with a pure joint, and it was.
And a SWAT team shatters the window and grabs you.
Like a dog comes and grabs my arm, starts whipping me around. Probably one of the best days of my life.
What
up until my kids were born, that'll be one of my favorite memories. Is sitting in this little bar. I felt like I was in The Hobbit or something.
Yeah, incredible.
I was just like on this great adventure.
And by the time I got there, Rookies was entrenched as your favorite coffee shop, or I remember, or like your most frequented place. You were like, you gotta go to Rookies.
Rookies, you get a toasty.
Yeah. Do you remember seeing the show that night? You were on mushrooms watching the show for the first time?
I'll be honest. I don't remember. I just kind of remember being like terrified when I watched it. Because I thought I was the shit. I was like, the fuck, we'll see what this show is. Holy shit, I was fucking terrified when I watched that show.
Because of the production value or what?
Because the production value, the just the structure, I guess, of the improv where I was like, I couldn't see all the wires. I didn't see all the tricks when you first watch it. So the show is so tight, and then just like, being like, okay, I'm going to ask this person their name, where they're from, what's their occupation, what's something that they wish they had that they don't have, and then sing a whole song, but also not, but it didn't ramble, it was like, set up
rhyme,
punchline, set up punchline. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, there's no space in here. So I just remember being like, oh fuck.
And for the listeners, I had the same experience. For the listeners, especially that era of Boom, I know it's changed now, but the energy in that room and the production value was just off the charts.
Dude, they did the boy band. I mean, boy band was like this fully choreographed thing. You know, they're doing all this stuff. They're each stepping up at a moment. They're hitting their jokes.
Yeah,
they were doing like bits with the video monitor.
Yeah,
it's Brendan Hunt, Jordan Peele, Nicole Parker singing an improv song, and I was just like, "What the fuck did I just do?"
yeah. And the room is 300 seats. There's an accompanist that's like electric guitar and multiple keyboards playing sound effects, underscoring scenes.
Herbrand von Kolek.
Herbrand. There's a smoke machine, laser lights, live video feeds. So you can run into the audience with a camera on you. And they're like
full restaurant. This is like a full dinner theater. They're bringing steaks out.
Right.
Like
there's a green screen room backstage, so someone can be like a live video correspondent, and the tech bridge is improvising backgrounds. So you can be like, I'm here in Antarctica, and boom, like it's behind you on the screen. You're improvising, running back and grabbing wigs so you can look like audience members. Just a real candy store for people who love short form.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. Man, that's that's one of my time machine things, is wishing that I could go back and have my like first week in Amsterdam again, or my first week at Boom. God, so great. Yeah. Overall, what was what do you feel like your growth trajectory was there, and what was your takeaway? What did Boom do for you?
Well, it's repetition, I guess, the reps, putting in the work. While I'm experiencing it, I don't think I was like ticking off like, I've just learned this lesson.
Sure.
It's only later in life that I can look back at some of the things that I do that I'm like, oh wow, that was because I was doing that. I think I will auditioning or doing a table read is always the tough for me thing about auditioning is like setting up the camera and like going through all that stuff. But the idea of like looking at a script and then just saying what's on the script and like doing it, memorizing, showing up to set, a lot of times, sometimes I may not read all the stuff I'm supposed to do in a scene the night before, especially if things are changing a lot. But I'm very confident that if I show up and they hand me a thing, okay, well, this is what we're doing. I'm totally fine with that, because we did all those corporate shows where we had to learn those things in like a train.
Yes. I think that all the time when I'm learning a new script. I'm like, all I need is a couple solid minutes, get the beats down and the lines just stick in there. Yeah.
At least for the time being,
Yeah,
it's like,
sure.
But that writing, like I probably had no interest in writing, I would have to say, before I got to Boom. It was I just didn't want to do it. And then it was while I was out there and we started writing this new show. Like we did, I was out there for a couple of the writing processes for the show. And in one of them, I just kind of hung back. I don't think I applied myself to write it that much, and then ended up really not liking kind of the show and not really liking, didn't feel like I had like created anything for myself to do. And so then the next time I was like, all right, I gotta try to write stuff. And so then I started writing, and that, that actually, obviously that stuck with me, because that's what I did primarily when I first moved to LA, was writing.
Yeah.
So definitely those things. I mean, gosh, I did a lot of drugs. I partied a lot, too much. Definitely, I think maybe tested my limits.
Which is also a fair lesson and takeaway.
Exactly.
Knowing where the boundary is, the outer limit of ability, consciousness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
but also just made like amazing friends,
Yeah.
you know, and share,
Family.
you have to share that, you know, experience, you know, with people who, you know, just like me on, you know, riding to school on the bus, just wanted to like find a different way to go through the world. And what more different could be going out to a country that speaks another language and performing improv comedy.
Right. While walking to the store and grabbing mushrooms. And yeah, I was going to say grabbing mushrooms for your day off, or for your first day on the job.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to pause here for a listener question.
Oh, cool.
We have subscribers now. Thank you, subscribers.
Awesome. Way to subscribe.
It's the best. And
if you haven't subscribed yet, you got to do it.
oh my God, Colton, why should they do it?
Well, because you get a lot of great perks. Like you get to ask these questions.
Yeah. It's true. So subscribers get to know who the guest is ahead of time. They become our close friends on Instagram.
Dirt.
Yeah, right? So this one kind of overlaps with what I just asked. But from Dan, what's the biggest lesson you learned from UCB and the biggest lesson you learned from Boom? You just kind of covered the Boom stuff. But what's the biggest lesson from UCB?
Well, UCB for me exists in 3 spaces.
Okay.
So when I first got to New York and I went through the program there and got onto a team, and then I went to Amsterdam. And then I came back, 2 years later, and I had a different experience at UCB and was on a Herald team in New York, and then left that and moved to LA.
Mm-hmm.
And then about a year after I was in LA, UCB LA opened up, and then I had my experience there. So all very different moments. So overall, what did it teach me? I mean, it taught me that nothing is forever. So the UCB that I was at before I went to Boom was different than the UCB that I came back to after I came back from Boom.
Yeah.
And UCB LA was completely different than my entire experience in New York. So, just know that it's never it's as much about where you are at as it is when you are at. So enjoy the moment of those cool places that you're at, because they're not always going to be there. It's not always going to stay that way.
Yeah.
And, just because you loved something one way doesn't mean you have to, love it. But that said, I love UCB. I'm not trying to say I don't like UCB.
No,
I'm just
yeah.
saying it's an entity that has changed so much in the time that I've worked with it. So,
Yeah.
Performance wise, obviously game, being able to identify a game and play a game hard. A lot of that, built up out of, the short form stuff that I did, but UCB really, showed me how to like think about that and process that, turn that into writing. A lot of my writing is very much, comes out of, that structure of finding something and heightening and all that kind of stuff.
Really focusing on just one unusual thing and carrying that forward through.
And the power of the straight man, the power of how funny the real world is when it is contrasted against something crazy, I think like a lot of people, and that was the one thing that was a little harder to do at Boom, but I can always do at UCB is do a straight man in a scene, like that's my favorite thing to do.
Is it really?
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
I didn't know that about you, though.
I love being kooky. I can always do that, but like having to like stand there and, keep trying to like talk about the missile codes, with with a guy who's being insane. It's so fun to do,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so much I feel like a lot of times people like they don't like that, but there's something I love about it. I love like setting that crazy person up to be even more crazy. So I love that. UCB definitely taught me how to really, really enjoy that. I think originally what it was is that UCB made me feel like it was cool to like this thing. And in a lot of ways, masculine to like it. I think when I was younger, there was, especially younger men in that time, and even now, obviously, like trying to do something that you feel like is still going to be like aggressive and masculine. And I remember like watching like Ian Roberts get angry in an improv scene and being like, yeah, like he didn't, wasn't like, it didn't feel like performative anger. It felt like real, like aggressive. And I just remember, like, for some reason, I have always identified, like, yeah, that's what improv for me feels like. What draws me in is that I don't feel like I have to do like performative, actory, expression of emotion. I can just do like, this is a real guy emotion, or this is the real person's emotion.
Interesting.
So that definitely attracted me. When that would be in that first quadrant. That second quadrant is definitely the things change quadrant. That was where I realized that Herald teams didn't mean that much to me anymore. That because I came back there after doing Boom Chicago, where obviously was all this stuff, and then got onto a Herald team, and I was excited about it, and we went and did the show and stuff. But it's where I really realized that, like, oh, this one thing that I thought was like the be all end all, now that I've done all this other stuff and I'm coming back and doing it, it just feels so lackluster to me.
Yeah.
And so definitely like learned that, you can't really go backwards if, especially if it's not like being fun. And it wasn't at that time. It just wasn't that fun for me. And so I left, and
good on you for recognizing that in the category of like knowing what you don't like and reacting there. It's
I've been very good at that in my life.
It's great. Yeah.
And so had some problems with it.
Like, I don't know how to do
it's more about the
algebra.
things that I like. So that's where if I like something too much. So then the third one is, I was a teacher. Like, it was like, so then UCB opens up. There's not that many people out here that had done it and gone through the program. So I taught. And so I was a teacher for a long time, but I was also like insanely out of control and like just a wild man.
Party monster.
I was a party monster. I was 100% a party monster. And so, there just came a time, I think, there where I kind of learned a little bit of I kind of got forced into maturing, because like they at one point I like was like missing my classes and they were just like, you can't teach her anymore.
Aside from the like requirements of it and the responsibility aspect, did you like teaching? Just
love it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always loved it. I'm a very generous teacher, because I laugh so easily, and my thing is really just, I feel like everybody could do it if they could just relax enough, like it's not, the heady stuff is there, and it can be there for a map, but it's really more about getting yourself to just like a place where you're ready to just play, and I love watching people get there, or seeing somebody who, is like really shy, like, trying to do stuff and then like getting more confident about stuff. I've always loved that.
Yeah. Do you feel like you have tactics or tips for people who aren't there yet? Like what bridge are you able to build to help people get to that playful place?
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like if you're seeing someone who's not relaxed, like how do you help them?
I'll play games, playing different types of improv games. I think just kind of help you loosen up because you don't have time to think too much. One of my favorite games is What's That?
I don't know if I know this.
It's a game that I don't know if it's a real game that somebody did, but this is just one that I used to do in my class, where it's just, you just ask the person, what's that? And they just have to explain what the last word is that they said. And as you kind of listen and you take that in. But then if they say anything else, you just go, well, what's that? And they just have to keep defining things.
Can we try it?
Sure.
Yeah, so because I my brain's not understanding it.
Okay.
But so I just like I just say a statement to start, or or do we do a scene?
Yeah. Why don't you just say something that is something that happened to you yesterday?
I did a bunch of my taxes.
Bunch? What's that?
Like a lot, like 5 hours worth of my taxes.
Hour? What is that?
It's like a unit of time based on where the sun is.
Sun?
Yeah.
What's that?
This very bright, very warm star, I guess, that we're kind of the closest star that we're closest to.
Guess? What's that?
It's, I guess, well, there it is again.
Oh, yeah. Well, what is that?
Well, it's when you think you know the answer, but you're not totally confident, so you say it. Or maybe I don't want to seem...
So that's pretty much the game. You just kind of play that back and forth.
Yeah.
And it sort of is against the rules in improv to ask questions. But I feel like if you're just asking people to define things and they know that that's their job, then they don't have a problem trying to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's one of my fun. That was one of the fun games that I used to play. I remember playing with level 1 people. But
I love the listening aspect on the person playing your role in it. That you can grab a word like bunch or guess, and you're listening to the whole sentence and scanning it for opportunities rather than just the big nouns or whatever.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Having fun and playing, helping your partner out in the scene, not being like a dick. What's I?
Yeah,
but that could also be fun. Well, I has 2 different definitions. It could be like talking about yourself, the individual, or like the organ you see with,
Organ? What's that?
Well,
another 2 definition. Yeah.
But I just love that stuff. And I love, and I used to do short form games in my long form classes because I felt like they're so, because that game is also very similar to Ding, right? Or to New Choice is another way that's people say that. But, just getting people out of, that's that you don't think from UCB like really resonated with me of like, stop all the thinking, just kind of have fun and, and then just dial in on that funny thing, you know, like to me, sometimes that always felt like hard to people, but I feel like once you figure it out, then you go, oh, this is actually really easy. Yeah. Like this is it's a lot easier than trying to like think of a bunch of new information. I can just focus in on that and just keep extrapolating and keep, adding to that. Yeah. You're one of the most playful improvisers I've ever seen and ever played with, almost in like a rebellious way where like you just don't give a shit. Like if something is fun, you're going to do it, Oh, yeah. And it's so fun to watch. It used to really scare me when I was new at Boom. Like I was like, oh God, I have to be in Colton's shift left scene. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And now looking back, again, time machine, I would love to go back now that I'm a stronger improviser and a more confident one and just play with you. Because it's like, oh God, yeah, Suzi, all of improv is you don't know what's going to happen, Yeah, exactly. But I used to perceive you as kind of like the Kool-Aid man who would just like break down the wall. Oh, yeah. You would break down whatever wall we were improvising behind and take us to a new dimension and make new things possible. And that was very scary and intimidating to me. Awesome. Yeah. Great. Yeah, it is. It is great. It's wonderful. I hope I didn't let you down. I mean, never. As you taught me through example, there's no such thing. I've said this story on this podcast before, but I'll tell you now that one of a formative experience of mine was like one of my first weeks at Boom. We did a show together, and Pep was giving us notes in the balcony after. And he was like, yeah, Colton, I feel like, your choice to bring the action to Cloud City just maybe derailed the scene that was there and kind of sidetracked it. I'd love to keep it. And you go, got it, Pep. The next time a scene is happening that mentions a mayor and there's clouds in the scene and there's a lightning bolt, I won't use that lightning bolt as a lasso to go to Cloud. The next time that scene happens, I won't take us to Cloud City. And you're like smoking your cigarette and drinking your pint. And it blew my mind because it's the first time I realized like, oh, right, notes are pointless. Like they can guide us. They are good while you're learning. But like, yeah, that scene will never happen again. So you're not going to be in that position again. Yeah, right. Got it, Pep. Yep. Okay, I won't do that then. But you also can just go note taking. Sure. As I'm like writing down my notes on the back of beer posters. When you play now, given this like unbridled playfulness that you have, but also this love of game, how much of you is circling back to the game roadmap in a scene, and how much of you is just like leaping forward onto the next lily pad as it appears without circling back to that satellite game? I mean, it's hard for me to gauge that specifically at this point because it is so much just kind of a thing I do now. So I don't know if I'm consciously like, okay, now it's time to circle back. I mean, I could think of moments like, with like I'm trying to like bring back or make connections towards the end of the show. I'm trying to like open my mind up a little bit more. If I'm on that back line, I am kind of like cycling through the scenes and, looking for a match to what's happening up on stage. But within the scene itself, it's almost as if it doesn't feel like it's something that I do on my own. Like I feel like there's an energy that we're following that like tells us when that measure has ended. And, so kind of, when a measure ends in a song, you don't have to like stop and restart that measure again. It just goes right to the next one, And so that's sort of how it feels. It feels like you're doing in a way a sort of improvised music with somebody. And, the idea of the game is like the rhythm or the tempo of the song. And we do that. And now we both agree that's the tempo. And then we just play at that tempo. And so that's how I guess that's how it more feels like to me.
So you do have though like this like internal kind of beholdenness to the heartbeat of the game. You're not just tripping forwards and forwards and forwards onto new things.
Oh no, definitely not. I mean, no, for sure not. Everything is always rooted in the thing right before it. Somehow. And even with the idea of A to C, that kind of trying to like jump something like that, it's still following that pattern to me. So I never feel like I'm just kind of like going from like silly thing to silly thing unless that's the game.
Right.
The
eternal asterisk. Yeah.
And a lot of times the audience is the judge of, when you cycle back, you're building that tension and then you release it with the audience and then they all laugh and now you go, okay, great. Now I'll just, okay, oh, well, it looks like the toast is done, but I know full well the only reason I'm going back to the toast is because we're going to get back to the jam.
For part 2 of this episode, go to yesalso.supercast.com. If you like this podcast, you can support us and get a ton of bonus content over at yesalso.supercast.com. If you have a question about improv that you'd like us to answer on one of our future Q&A episodes, send it on over to yesalsopod@gmail.com. Remember to follow us on Instagram at yesalsopod and keep sharing us with your improv communities. We love the love. If you're a theater who would like to host us for a live recording and improv show, let us know at yesalsopod@gmail.com. A huge shout out to Ryan Rosenberg, who produced this thing with his generous help and his unlimited knowledge about all things podcast. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. No, we won't, Suzi. That's not how podcasts work. They will see. They won't even see us. They will listen to us. So it's actually the opposite of both things you said. Thanks for listening, and you will listen to us next week. Maybe. We don't know.